Welcome, everyone. This is Coaching in Session. My name is Michael Reardon, and I will be your mindset coach today. And today we're going to be talking about primary negative emotions, because if you know anything about me, right, I don't believe in this whole emotional intelligence stuff that we have to teach our kids and that adults have to catch up to, and then the whole world just fixes itself. That's a load of BS, number one. Number two, we're going to be talking about the negative emotions today, understanding them, working through them. And then at that point, you're going to be ready to handle anything that can come your way. That is going to leave you better equipped than any emotional or EQ class or course or workshop or adding it to the system is going to fix. Because it's not so much about learning about our emotions and being able to express our emotions. It's when we have those primary negative emotions, what do? Because if we look at people, when they get depressed, they just eat a bunch of ice cream. They don't want to do anything. So the emotion is not so much as the behavior to what we do about it. Because even if you're depressed, talking to someone might not fix it. So if talking is not the answer, then what is the answer? We have to know what that emotion is for us. All right. Is that emotional intelligence? No. Because emotional intelligence is, again, that aspect that I don't want to say hate, but it's on the border. You're just like, you should be able to talk and express your emotions. And I know the whole society of men are supposed to, keep their emotions inside. And I mean, if you listen to the podcast, I'm very open about my life and sharing with everyone what I do and how I do it. It's not me hiding my emotions or expressing my emotions. You might see me, I guess, a little bit fired up sometimes and maybe a little bit under the weather sometimes. But guess what? We still show up. And there's a difference between what a man is and then what a man should be doing. Because, yes, a man is human and he needs to have emotions and needs to be able to control those emotions. But there it is. How do you control those emotions? Not show them, just how do you control them? So if you need to cry for boys. Cool. Don't cry for women. If you need to be angry, right? Go do some MMA, do some boxing, kickboxing, whatever. Go to the gym. Learn your release. What is that for you? Sometimes people, they just get, I don't know how to do the release. I don't know the fix. Because the fix is not always talking to a therapist. I've talked to clients who have went to therapists and they have always come back into me and they said the same thing. I'm just talking about my emotions. We're not going nowhere. People who come to me, they want results. So it's a big difference from sitting there talking about it and then taking action. Action is key, not just sitting there and talking about it. Emotional intelligence, if you look at the whole definition, if you go back to the podcast where I was talking about emotional intelligence and I give all the examples of what emotional intelligence is, there's a difference between action and then understanding and feeling. All right. There's a huge difference there. There's a difference between someone seeing a therapist and someone going and getting a life coach. People who have had therapists that have switched to life coaches typically say, this is so much better. Not throwing therapists under the bus. They have a job to do, right? Talking about other people's emotions, allowing the other person to talk about their emotions. And hey, some people need that. Some people need that air. Some people need that release of, I just need to talk about this emotion. I just need to talk to someone about it. Very feminine energy. But hey, right? Men today want to be feminine. And we're going to be talking about that probably next episode because we had a little issue. And I'm not going to talk about the issue, but I want to talk about today's blog. I want to talk about today's blog and what we're going to be talking about. We're going to be talking about the list of major negative emotions. The way I wrote the blog is I label all of the major negative emotions. And then from there, I do a breakdown. Now, here's what we're going to do in the episode. So we're all on the same page. I'm going to define and read all of the negative primary emotions. And then one by one, we're going to go through them. And I'm going to give an example, maybe two examples of what a person can do if they're feeling that way. Now, just because you're feeling this way, it doesn't mean that you are in the wrong. It doesn't mean that you need to stop feeling that way. If you're sad, there could be a good reason you're sad. Maybe your dog died. Maybe a family member passed away. So that's going to make you sad, right? You just lost a piece of you. Tears can come, depression can follow, maybe a little bit of anger. But from there, what do you do? Do you understand the next step after you're done feeling that emotion? Because remember, emotions last 90 seconds. And if we allow an emotion to last longer than 90 seconds, that's on us. So let's get into that blog right now and then start to break down all of the different primary negative emotions. All right, everyone, if you're new to the channel, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and to share this video and our audio to help build a community of like-minded individuals. And that is going to be with a growth mindset. And today we're going to be talking about these negative emotions. Now, these negative emotions are going to be one of those things that people are going to be like, oh, you need to not feel anything negative. You should always be happy. That's not realistic. I live in the real world. We don't live in fantasy world over here in Urban Concepts. We're going to tell you the truth. We're going to tell you how it is. If you're not showing up, there's an aspect to what you're doing that needs to be tweaked so you can show up better in your day. If something is not working and it's broken, we need to fix it. How can we fix it together? It's important that we understand that. So one of the biggest emotions that we're going to be dealing with is going to be anger. Now, anger is a strong feeling of displeasure and is usually represented as a violent or threatening appearance or behavior. You can also be frustrated when you're angry. Anger is one of those things where it's like you want to ball up your fist and punch a wall. Or maybe you're angry at a person and you want to tell them what it is. You want to say, you know what, mister? You know what, lady? I'm not happy with you. And that's what you do, right? Sometimes we allow that anger to express itself in a way that's not conducive for us to really make some strides into our life. Because when we have anger toward a person, it doesn't bring us anything. It doesn't. Maybe even if you bring it all the way to revenge, it still does not bring you anything. Maybe a little bit of satisfaction knowing that you beat the person up or something. I mean, maybe the person had it coming, right? So now you feel a sense of joy and pleasure. But for most people, that anger is left there to stew and there's no action taken. So that anger, you just ruminate on it again and again and again. However, there can be release, right? Action is the release for anger. So if you just sit in that anger, you're just angry, you're just like, just in that negative vibe, it is because you don't have the action necessary to get rid of the anger. Now, for me, when I was angry a lot, when I was in high school and in college, because, you're just angry at things. You're just angry at people. You have a different type of mindset. Today, I could be angry at a person for maybe a couple hours. I have learned how to forgive very quickly. Now, just because I forgive you, it doesn't mean I forgot. It's not water under the bridge anymore. There is still a bridge there unless I blow it up, or the bridge is now run dry. There is no water under the bridge. So depending on the situation, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, it won't be fooled again. So I typically allow people one chance. That's it. Why would I have someone in my life who continually angers me? Unless it's my kid. Kids are always going to push your buttons. And guess what? As a parent, that's part of the job description. For example, if you work retail around the holiday times, it's a part of your job description to deal with maybe stuck-up customers. Not saying that is a good thing, but it's something that you have to learn. So yeah, maybe at work you can't just punch them in the face, take action there. But maybe after work you go to the gym, maybe go boxing, maybe go running, do something. Now, it doesn't even have to be physical activity. You can clean, I guess that's physical, garden, mow the grass, whatever. Whatever you have to do, you do some type of action. Sometimes men go fishing, they play video games. You can talk to your friends if you really wanted to. It's an action. So figuring out what you need to do to de-escalate that anger. And then ask yourself, is it healthy? Was it a healthy anger? Most of the time, it's not healthy. Most of the time, it's just something that happened in your life and you're just trying to, get over it. Depends on how you do things. I recommend don't allow anger to be there. Now we get into the frustration part. Now, frustration, we talked about it a little bit, is a sense of state of insecurity or dissatisfaction from unresolved problems or unresolved needs. You can be frustrated if things don't go your way. You can be frustrated if someone's not on time, things don't happen according to plan. Maybe, you're just driving and someone just keeps, honking at you or flashing their high beams at you, right? You can become frustrated because of an action of another person or an inaction of another person. But that, again, that feeling of frustration just needs a release. It's similar to a gas valve, or like if you have steam in a pipe, make sure you're not near it because it's going to burn you. But like if you let it go, right, the pressure releases. Frustration is that pressure. So instead of us being frustrated, letting that steam build up into anger, we need to make sure, how can we release any frustration we have? I'm sure people who are my adult people, you probably heard about the concept of a sexual release, right? Or you're sexually frustrated. It's a thing, right? You are just like, oh, I have to get this release. I have to get this out of me, right? That pressure has built up enough. And at that point, once you get your relief, you're like, I feel good. This is what I needed. Sometimes you get frustrated with work and you need that break. You need that weekend. Understanding what you need is important. Sometimes people, they don't even know what they need. So then they just continually remain frustrated. Get out of that way or get out of the habit. Then we get into one of the major ones. And that's going to be sadness. Sadness is going to be the effect or expression of grief and or unhappiness. Sadness is typically a feeling that comes after conflict, loss, or unfavorable news. You can be sad for a plethora of things. Again, we talked about someone passing away. Maybe you lose a job. Maybe you are upset. So there's a mix of emotions. You're sad. Maybe you're angry because you went to the casino and you gambled some money and you lost it all. So there can be a lot of emotions and sadness, and you have to work through those. But remember, emotions last 90 seconds. So if I'm going to be sad longer than 90 seconds, I need to start asking myself, is this helping me? Is this bringing me something? Sometimes it is, sometimes it's not. You do have to get into the state of mind of, if I'm sad, what do I do to make me happy? And the reason I say happy is because that's the opposite of what sadness is, right? Not necessarily. The opposite of sadness is actually going to be complacency, or homeostasis is the more appropriate term. Homeostasis is just going to be where we are naturally. Typically, right now, if you're listening to this episode, you are not in a state of great happiness. You didn't just win a bunch of money. You just didn't get some good fortune. You're probably just in a regular state of being. There's nothing wrong with that. But you do have to understand one thing about that state of being, is that happiness is an elevated homeostasis. And if you are just at that level, you're content. And it's perfectly fine to be there. It's actually a healthy place to be. The brain and the body loves that. So if we give ourselves something that is just so far from natural, our body doesn't like it, right? Our brain doesn't like it. We want to get back to just feeling good where we're not thinking about the negative things. Well, guess what? Emotions last 90 seconds. So if we're ruminating on a negative emotion, why are we doing it? The brain loves negative, number one. So the brain is naturally attracted to negative. That's why you can be watching the news and you're just attracted to it. You could be watching The Bachelor and then someone's cheating on someone and you just like, yes, I love this. This is great. Because that negativity, the brain just loves it. There's nothing wrong with the brain liking that. So just understanding that aspect can be important for you to start to make sure that you have the right mindset when dealing with some of these emotions. We get into one called helplessness. It's a feeling of powerlessness or a state of mind that cannot or something cannot be done. So you might feel helpless if, you don't have an option, if you didn't have a say in the matter. Sometimes people can feel helpless, like if they get in a car accident, right? It's not your fault you got in a car accident. And now you're on the side of the road. So you're trying to figure out, well, you're on the side of the road now. What do you do about that? And for some people, that helplessness can just come in so many different aspects of their life. It can come into areas of their life with work. They feel helpless in their job. They can feel helpless in their relationship. They can feel helpless in their responsibility as a parent. Regardless of what we say we're helpless in, understand that we have so much power, we have so much potential, we have so much more. And it's important that you understand that. For the people who are in that state of helplessness, they just have to understand their potential. And then understanding that if they need a break, a reset, a day, the next day you will feel powerful again. So an example to this is if I feel helpless today, like I'm just worried about everything, I'm going to take a break and the next day I'm going to be ready. Just recharge. A night's rest, a nap can be enough to give you the energy, because sometimes when you're feeling helpless, you just don't have the energy to push. You don't have the energy to keep on going. Then we get into fears, one of the biggest ones, right? FOMO, the fear of missing out. All of the things that come with fear are just something that we created. I have a fear of losing my job. Well, what would happen if you lose your job? If you lost your job, you get a new one. If you're so worried about your job, why not become a CEO and then just be your own boss? It's important that you do what you want to do, but then make sure you don't allow yourself to not do the things you should be doing because of fear. Fear is an imaginary obstacle that our mind creates. I'm afraid of the dark. Why? I'm afraid of dogs. Why? And that can be natural, right? Because maybe you got bit when you're younger, you're a kid. So now you're trying to figure out, well, how can I not be afraid of dogs anymore? Get a puppy. Raise that puppy. Learn to love that puppy. That puppy's going to love you unconditionally. That dog probably will never bite you. And then from there, are you afraid of dogs? Probably not. Are you afraid of other people's dogs? Maybe you're uncertain around other people's dogs, but the fear is not there the same way it was. So sometimes getting over the fear is that we have to go through the fear. We have to experience the fear. If you have a fear of heights, jump out of a plane. I did it once, I'll do it again. I didn't have a fear of heights, but I will say when you're up there and you're at the edge and he says, all right, we're going on 3. And he goes 1, 2, and then he pushes you on 2. It's just like for about 2 or 3 seconds, it seems like. It feels like you have no control over your body. That fear kicked in for me. However, mindset, take a break. All right, what's happening? I'm falling. I'm not flying. I'm falling from a plane and I'm going toward the earth. What do? I said, okay. What did the guy tell me to do when I was on the plane? When I was on the ground still? What did he tell me to do? He goes, put your hands up like this and put your legs like this. And then when I give you the sign, you pull the parachute. Okay. Easy enough, I thought. And as soon as I get out of the plane, my brain just starts that boom, boom, boom. Like this is wrong, right? This is fear. But then I took control of my brain because it was a rapid response. And I said, now I'm in control. Now I can make choices. Now I can pay attention. Fear stops you from paying attention. People make a lot of mistakes because they have fear within them. Fear cannot reside in you if you want to live a life that's not dealing with those mistakes. Then we look at failure. Failure is going to be a result from not attaining the desired or expected actions, which can lead to a feeling of defeat and falling short of one's goals, leading to other emotions. Failure is going to be something that we all have to get used to. Failure leads to growth. That's just the way it is. Failure does not feel good. I understand failure does not feel good, but you should seek failure as often as you can, because the more you fail, the more you learn. And the more you know, the more you can grow in different aspects in different areas. It's important that you know that you can make some adjustments here and there after a failure. Sometimes people think, oh, I failed, oh, I can't do this. If you keep doing the same thing, you're going to keep getting the same result. So if you're not passing a test, if you're not getting that relationship, if you're not getting that job, what are you doing that is not getting you there? And what is in your subconscious that is there that is keeping you from succeeding, that's keeping you stuck in that failure? Sometimes you don't even know that you're just that negative talk going on. And let me tell you something about confidence. Have you ever talked to a person who is just not confident? Maybe they're shy, they're very quiet, and when you talk to them, they have no eye contact, their body is like positioned away from you, they don't want anything to do with you. Maybe they do, but at the same time, they don't have the confidence to look you in the eye, to hold a conversation, to know their worth. But then have you ever seen a person who's just confident? Ooh, you just talk to them. This guy has an ego, or this lady has an ego. I love it. Right? That's confidence there. From that point, you can tell the difference between the two. Now, since you can tell the difference between the two, why can't anyone else in the world tell the difference? When I interview people for jobs here at Reverend Concepts for doing social media or video editing or outreach, marketing, whatever, I'm looking at skill level. I'm looking at professionalism. I'm looking at mindset, demeanor, but I'm also looking at confidence. And you cannot hide if you're not confident. Sometimes I get people, they're like, I'm so nervous. I'm so nervous. You don't have to be nervous. I don't bite people. So why are you so nervous? Again, because they psych themselves up for the job. I need this job so much. I just want to let you know that, I'll do whatever I need to do to make you happy or satisfied. I'm like, Jesus, I don't need all that. I just need you to do your job the best way and as efficiently as you can. But then again, they don't understand. I can see the neediness, the greediness, the fear within them. It can be there. But you need to make sure that you are ahead of it. You don't have to always show up as confident. Sometimes you're not going to be confident because confidence comes after action. If I'm going to do a speech in front of 1,000 people, I might be a little nervous, but I'm going to go up onto that stage and I'm going to say, all right, here we go. And I'm going to get into my flow. I'm going to get into my rhythm. After about 5 minutes and nothing happened to me, I didn't die. My brain is going to say, well, I guess everything's okay. And even if I failed on that stage, guess what? That right there, that failure is going to be a great learning lesson for me. I'm going to say, I learned from my mistake there. Don't wear these shoes. Or I learned my mistake. Don't talk about this topic, right? It's a very touchy topic, depending, right? I'm not trying to be a people pleaser. I'm just trying to make sure I'm giving my message in a succinct and in a structured way. That's what I want to do. So then we looked at fear, failure, guilt. Now is the idea of feeling responsible for a wrongful doing of a failure. So you might feel guilty because something happened. You're guilty because your cat ran away because you left the door open. Guess what? Take ownership if you have guilt. If you can, go out, look for your cat. If your cat is a frequent flyer and always running away, get a microchip, get one of those tags that you can put on them. And that's what you have, a tile or whatever. And you make sure that your cat's always wearing that if your cat's always running away. I never had an issue with my dog, but my dog before would always run away. This is before tiles and everything. This was like when I was a kid. I learned for my dog not to have guilt that the dog ran away. Make sure the dog has a microchip, tracker, and then maybe even train him not to run away. That's what I did. Now we get into some really big ones. That's going to be dealing with loneliness and then after depression. So loneliness is going to be looking at a feeling of isolation or seclusion from being physically or mentally alone. So that's going to be, I need another human. As I'm doing this recording, I have the house to myself. And let me tell you, it's amazing. I enjoy so much to be in my own space, to be in my own mind, and to understand that what I have to do and what I'm doing is important. Because when a week goes by and now the missus comes back and the kid comes back, I'm no longer alone. When they're home, the AC is very, very cold, and I don't want it very, very cold. I live in Texas. I appreciate the heat. It can get a little warm, so 90, 100, but they want the AC at 70. And I'm thinking, whoa, it's too cold. 75. Let's do 75, 76. Oh, no, it's too hot in this house. All right. Well, let's agree maybe 72 to 74. That's where we stay. The house is probably like 79 right now. I don't have the AC on at all. I love it. All right. Most people will say, I just feel so lonely. I don't have anyone in the house. I'm so depressed. The reason why is because you have not found a power in being alone. Being alone is not lonely. Loneliness is just a state of mind because you cannot be with your own thoughts. So if you do not know how to live with your own thoughts, then you need to start to ask, why can't I allow my thoughts to reside and flow freely in my day? What are you trying to hide? What are you trying not to pay attention to? Depending on what that is, do the work, be conscious of it, make some adjustments, and then you're going to see that loneliness was always a state of mind. Then we get into depression. Now, this is something that just happens. Depression is a period of increased sadness when you feel low. For this depression, I want you to understand something about it. Depression is just going to be a plethora of emotions. You could be angry, you could be sad, you could be lonely, you can be jealous, right? There's so many emotions that you can feel when you are depressed. How you get over depression is with time. I wish I can give you an easy way to fix depression. People go on every type of drug, antidepressants and all this type of drugs, all these type of therapies because they feel depressed. Yes, some people do have a chemical imbalance and they will feel depressed. They do benefit from having some type of drug or some type of doctor give them some medicine to help them be more happy, I guess you can say. I always say you can get there without drugs again, but if you have that chemical imbalance, yes, it's going to be effective. But the issue with that is I've seen people who had chemical imbalances get off of their antidepressants and feel amazing because they come to a mindset, a new mindset, a realization that they can be good in their life. Why do we have to have the drugs instead of the mindset? Because the mindset takes work. And the people who are depressed, the last thing they want to do is exert work and effort. And that is what you need, is action. You need action to get out of depression. Sitting still, remaining, and doing nothing is going to throw you deeper into depression. Get out of depression by taking action. Get out of the house, right? I'm sure you probably saw movies, right? Someone broke up with someone and then all the friends are like, all right, let's get out of the house. Let's get out of the house and let's go party. And that's what happens. So they get out of the house and they go party and they have a good time. And the person slowly starts to feel better. And that's what happens with depression. It slowly dissipates. But you have to allow it to dissipate. For example, if you just leave cotton candy out in the open, it's probably going to stay cotton candy. But if you put cotton candy in water, it slowly starts to dissolve. Depression is going to slowly start to dissolve once we start to take action. And if you don't take action, guess what happens? The depression sits there. So you just can't allow depression to linger. Take the action. It's important that you take the action. Then we get into our last four emotions, right? So overwhelmed is going to be a feeling of being overpowered by thoughts or feelings that lead to inaction because of the massive amounts of work or energy needed to fix or change it. So overwhelmed can be you're overwhelmed with work, you're overwhelmed with the relationship, your duties as a parent, responsibilities as a parent, a spouse, whatever. You could just be overwhelmed by everything. Take a step back, right? Less action could be a good thing, or a pivot in how you do things. So sometimes people think, well, oh, I'm just going to not do anything. I'm just going to sit and have a self-care day and watch movies all day. But if you had to clean the house and you were overwhelmed because you had a bunch of housework, did that really fix it? It just delayed you having to do it. And maybe that break was good for you. It's important that you understand, right? Is that break a good thing or is that break a bad thing? Most of the time, if you have inaction and overwhelm and not do a redirect, it's a bad thing. So I encourage people, if you're having a hard time, right, when it comes to overwhelm, to take it bite-sized and to know you're doing it bite-sized. For example, I have to clean the house. Today, I'm just going to clean the kitchen. And I'm going to make it a 5-day thing. I turned a huge task of my house cleaning into a week-long project. Yeah, I have a week-long work now, but now I made it more bite-sized and appropriate. The brain loves approachable. Overwhelm, as long as you can show the brain it's approachable, anything is possible. Then we get into resentment. Resentment is a feeling of indigent displeasure or persistent ill will at something regarded as a wrong, insult, or injury. Now, you can resent people for doing wrong to you. You can resent a boss for yelling at you or not liking your report or your presentation. But understand that was a failure too. And then you grow from it. Holding on to resentment is the same thing as holding on to anger. It has no purpose, especially today in our world. So don't resent others. Learn how you can make your life better from any setbacks or mistakes. And then from there, if you keep having the same type of emotion come up, do some deep introspection looking if you're in the right area. Because if you're in the wrong area, you're going to always keep getting into that way of thinking, that wavelength. Then we get into the last two, inadequacy and jealousy. Inadequacy is a feeling of not feeling enough or adequate in any presented role. Parent, spouse, whatever. The reason you don't feel adequate is because you don't know your value, you don't know your worth. At that point, get a coach. Get someone who's going to show you just how amazing you are. I work with people and they have all this self-doubt. They have all these concerns. And I just start listing all the things they're good at, all the things where they shine. They go, I didn't think of it that way. Of course you didn't, because you just have that state of inadequacy there. You feel like you're not good enough. You're not a good enough son. You're not a good enough friend. You're not a good enough person. And I'm here to tell you that you are. Now, there's going to be some areas you might have to do some work. We all can benefit from a little bit of work in some areas. But most of the areas that we shine, we don't even have a light on it to see how good we are in it. And it's important that we know that. And then our last one is going to be jealousy. Jealousy is another prominent negative emotion that can be a mix of different ones. You could be jealous of your spouse's former partner. Maybe you're jealous of a friend who got a new car, or jealous of a coworker who got a promotion before you. Understand that jealousy is not bringing you anything but dissatisfaction and displeasure and disappointment. Why not use that moment right there and say, you know what? You had a relationship before ours. That's to be expected. But now I know that I have you, right? That's just a relationship. Maybe in the job, someone got a promotion before you. They were a great fit for that job. That role right there, they're going to kill it. They're going to do a fantastic job in there. I would have did a fantastic job too, but I know they would do a great job just as much. I'm proud of them. Then you start to think, I didn't get that promotion. What is next in line? What other projects can I do? And it doesn't just have to be at that workplace. Heck, you can do other job applications, and you just don't do other job applications because you're upset and got jealous. All right. You do it because you're like, now I see what this company stands for. Now I have a little bit more direction in where I want to go. We use what we get. We use what we get. And once you can accumulate everything that you got, you're going to find that you're making so much more progress in all aspects of your life. These primary negative emotions, there's a lot of them, but we do have to know how to go through them. All right, that was a mouthful of content of talking about all the primary negative emotions and going through them and giving a couple of examples. These negative emotions are something that people are just going to have to work through, deal with, and it's not going to be easy all the time. Sometimes it's going to be something that they're like, how do I get through this? And I always encourage people, get someone, get a coach, get a guide, get a mentor, get a therapist, get a psychologist, get someone, an accountability partner, whatever, to be there with you to hold the space in wherever you are. Now, I always say, if you're a man, you should be speaking with other men. And if you're a woman, you can speak with either or. The reason I say that is because typically a man does not have a woman figure besides their mom, maybe their grandmother in their life. So what they do is they feel like they can use their wife as that person, as, okay, I'm going to talk to her about, these emotions. And yes, I'm not saying that you can't talk about your emotions with your wife. I'm not saying that. There's a certain level your wife can take. She might not know it yet, but if you come home every single day and you're complaining and you're bitching and you're moaning, eventually she's going to say, can you man up, please? Because it's not going to be that care and affection, because she wants that from you, not you having to go into her to feel better. It's a matter of time. The same thing as, gender roles. Men protect and provide. Women are the caregivers and the nurturers, right? And if you have a family, right, she's going to be tapped out with her job, maybe if she's working, and then tapped out with the kids. You have to be self-sufficient. You have to hold down the fort. You have to be that strong individual when times are hard, because she's going to be looking at you for support. And if you break down, and when she's broken down, she's going to feel lost. And that's the last thing you want your woman to feel. So there's just so many emotions and just so many ways to do it. If you are a guy and you want to go see a woman therapist, that's fine, right? Just someone who's not your wife. You can talk to your mom. That's a great person to speak with. She's always going to have your back, always support you. Siblings could probably work. If you have friends, again, guys typically don't have a bunch of girlfriends. It's just something that your wife's probably not going to allow openly unless you have a modern relationship. That's fine. I can have women acquaintances, but I don't have girls just texting my phone all the time saying, hey, how you doing, Michael? I miss you and stuff like that. My wife would give me dirty looks. Oh, she misses you, huh? This could be one of those arguments. You're not going to win. So I always tell men, get another guy. You can talk to your mom, you talk to your friend or something like that. Again, this could probably be a guy friend. Girls, you could talk to anyone. You shouldn't be talking to guys in the same regard to your husband. And I understand. Guys are going to be maybe more open to you, talking to guys, being in that type of relationship. It depends on the person. So I'm not going to just sit here and say, girls, you can't have guy friends. Guys, you can't have girlfriends. You can have whatever you want. But if you're in a relationship and your relationship is struggling or it's hurting because of always arguments of, oh, I think you're cheating and things like that, well, you're giving the other person a reason to be insecure. So it's sometimes easier just to say, you know what? I'm not going to give them any ammunition, is what I call it. You just say, this is what I'm going to do. And from there, you just know your schedule, you know their schedule, and you live life. If you see a woman that you like, you can say, excuse me, ma'am, I think you look amazing today. I just want to let you know. You didn't get her number. You didn't sleep with her. There's nothing negative there. If your wife's right next to you, she's going to give you dirty looks, because I would probably say that after you said that to that lady, like a little tip would be, like lean over to your wife, maybe grab her hand and say, but she has nothing on you. Something like that, right? You just, again, this is not a relationship episode. This is an episode talking about a list of major negative emotions and then learning how to get through them. And if you are having a hard time, and I know this is a long one today, I know, we have to do the best we can with these emotions. How do we show up with these emotions? We take action. We make sure that just because we have these emotions, it doesn't mean we're in a bad place. It doesn't mean we're bad people. It doesn't mean we're doing something wrong. Always understand that you can make some adjustments. And that means if you're dealing with these negative emotions and you need some help and you need to make some changes, make those changes. Don't be afraid to make them. Don't wait to make them. Make them. It's important that you make those changes as soon as possible, because from there, you're going to find that you're going to be so much better off. Don't stay in negativity. Get out of it. Get into positivity. It's not about finding happiness. Happiness, again, is just one of those things that we tell ourselves so we can look toward it. Negativities are always going to push us more than a positivity. So if you associate pain with action, that's going to get you to take more action than if you associate action with just pleasure. If you don't believe that is true, ask yourself why you procrastinate. Procrastination is just fear and pleasure mixed together. And these negative emotions are just a mix of emotions that don't bring about some things in your life. So it's important that you know what you have to do, how to do it, and then you make some changes, you make some adjustments. Important that you know how to make those adjustments. All right. Long one, I know. Put it in the books. All right. It can't be too long. But I do want you to work through these emotions, to understand these emotions. You don't have to talk to people about every single emotion you feel. The only thing you have to do is understand them. And once you understand them, then you can figure out what works for you. And once you figure out what works for you, you just mimic that every single time it shows up. Sometimes you might have to make a modification or do a pivot, but you're going to see that you're always going to come out in a better place and be in a better state of mind. My name is Michael Rudd. I'm a mindset coach. If you have any questions, you can email me coachinginsession@gmail.com, and I will see everyone on the next episode of Coaching in Session. Until then, everyone take care.